Well, good morning, everyone. My name is Don K. Preston. I am the president of Preterist Research Institute. It's a little bit different here, isn't it? I'm kind of playing around because I'm getting ready to produce some long DVDs for university classroom presentation. I'll be back at my desk very shortly for my morning musings, but here I'm just trying this out. I'm sharing with you my journey to the full preterist view of eschatology. And I'm sharing with you some of my brief thoughts about the book of Revelation. I came to understand that my traditional view that Revelation was written in 95 to 98 was wrong. I got to tell you, there's virtually nothing in the book of Revelation that fits the later period of time as traditionally espoused. You know what really bothered me and what still bothers me today tremendously? I'm currently in a written debate with a gentleman by the name of Jerry McDonald. Jerry went so far as to say that the internal testimony of the book of Revelation means absolutely nothing until we allow the external evidence to determine when Revelation was written. Really? You mean to tell me the inspired text of Revelation must submit and conform to the testimony of uninspired men who lived hundreds of years, mostly, after the book was written? You see, that's one of the major problems that I did and do encounter. A noted scholar in my fellowship of the Churches of Christ, he was the head of a Bible department at one time, wrote a little commentary on the book of Revelation, and he said, if we were to allow the evidence strictly of internal evidence, then surely the book of Revelation leaves no doubt whatsoever that it was written at a very early date. However, the external evidence points to the late date, so we will accept that testimony. Once again, really? Do we believe in the authority of Scripture or not? I want to be really kind here. Now, remember, I was raised believing in the late date. But I have to tell you, I believed it, I accepted it, not because I had studied it, okay? When I walked into seminary, our professor accepted the late date. We didn't even study the dating of Revelation. Now, that was a major fallacy, obviously. That is to say, a major failure. So, what I'm trying to impress upon you, my viewers, is the fact that when we come to the book of Revelation, it's extremely critical that we determine what evidence are we going to accept as authoritative. Here is a book that, number one, draws upon the Old Testament literally hundreds of times. It is about the fulfillment of the Old Testament promises that God made to Israel. And here is a huge paradox. All futurist eschatologies say that the law of Moses, i.e. the Old Testament, was done away with in the first century. Would it not make sense then, if you're going to argue that the law of Moses was done away in the first century, and that since Revelation is about the fulfillment of the Old Testament, does it not make sense that Revelation and its prophecies had to be fulfilled in the first century before the Old Testament was removed and abrogated? You see what I mean? I mean, how can you extrapolate the fulfillment of Revelation 2 millennia so far beyond the time in which you say the Old Testament was removed? Hope that makes sense to you. Hey, thanks for joining me for today's morning musings here in my, experimental studio. I appreciate you being with me. We'll see you on the flip side.